Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Media Cocktail Podcast, Episode 8. I am your host, not Brandon, otherwise known as Brendan, otherwise known as the Headless Samurai. There's a lot of usernames, you understand. We're in Episode 8. You know who we are. Probably. Maybe
I
not.
don't even know who I am.
I don't know your life. I hope you're having a good life. Anyway, God, this plan is miserable. I'm joined by my co-hosts and friends, Michael, otherwise known as Drinks and Fun, on Twitch. Michael, how's it going?
Very bold of you to say, call me a friend after all the horrible things I said to you. But I'm doing great.
Wow. It's a callback to another stream. We're streaming a lot more. We're kind of the streamer guys now.
We have become the streamers.
Yeah, that was not something that was intended at the start of last
maybe
month.
Maybe we could stream the keep talking and no one explodes. Like one of us is just like, it'd probably be me being like full face cam, like reading all the stuff while you guys are like trying to like figure it out or something like that.
Yeah. I don't see why not.
That's fun. Plug. See, what I did there was I did a bit even bigger plug. I plugged something that hasn't even existed yet.
Yeah.
That's just how fucking.
Well,
big
technically,
brain
this
we
is
are
in the
here.
future. When they're listening to this is the future. So,
Well,
because technically, when this episode comes out, Will and I have already finished Dead Space 3.
Oh
Yeah.
shit! Oh my god! I can only imagine how golden it would be as if you you don't release this episode just so you can finish finish Dead Space 3 if you didn't by the weekend. You're like,
Yeah.
I have it done, but I haven't finished it just yet. So
Well, the game is
Let's
12
just
hours, and we
extend it
have
for
3 days to finish it. So I think I'm pretty confident. Will and I are gamers, so we can. I'm pretty confident that we can get through it.
we are total
We're-
gamers.
Yeah,
we're gamers. We're on a different level of species.
What is like? Gamers are an indomitable species.
I guess so. That's why the internet hates us.
That's true. But
The
in
game's
other
journalism.
news, I'm doing okay.
We have the secrets
Oh,
that
yeah,
everyone
Michael's doing
hates.
okay. I'm also joined by my friend Will, otherwise known as Lost Gamer, or some Lost Gamer on Twitch. We just knock it out of the park with usernames here, guys. We just, so good. Anyway, Will, how's it going?
Going okay, I guess. I mean, like I said, finally got my name changed, so it's less awkward, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like that. I don't know, that username is like I've had that for years, so it's like there's some sentimentality behind it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it is a
Well-
bad name.
Will, you gotta kill the past and become a better future.
Gotta kill it past. Let it die if I must.
Yeah. Anyway,
Hakuna Matata, right?
every week in the Media Cocktail Podcast, we have a cocktail of the week. This week's cocktail was have whatever you like. We didn't think of one. We don't even announce what the cocktail of the week is for next week, so technically we should probably do that, but we don't. So you'll figure it out. This is a
figure
very
it out
thrown
as we go
together
along.
episode of the Media Cocktail Podcast. Everybody's having their own drinks of choice. I'm having a rosé wine. Very fancy. Michael
Ooh.
is having a gin and tonic. And Will's drinking
With a
water.
very heavy.
Spiked water, to be precise.
Oh yeah, he's just got rubbing alcohol in water.
You mean vodka? You mean vodka?
Oh, maybe vodka. Yeah,
I mean,
vodka.
to be fair, I do have a spiked cola in my hand, but it's spiked with vodka, so you are right, actually.
There you go.
Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
And also,
Also-
this gin and tonic, very heavy emphasis on the gin. I didn't do 1-to-1 like some psychos said, but it's still a lot of gin.
Also, since this is kind of a new show, I thought we'd introduce a segment where we kind of get to know our hosts here a little bit by asking them what their favorite thing is or whatever. The segment was called "What is your favorite blank?" I did that voice effect thing again. It's very cool. I know how to audio edit it. Anyway,
Man, I really wish I got to hear that.
this week is what is your favorite fast food restaurant? Of course, not a plug or a hint at anything. Obviously. So, Michael, why don't you go first?
But if any of you like Burger King or anything, please sponsor us. We are complete sellouts, and we will do anything for a couple dollars.
This
Legends and
this podcast has been brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. It's the
No. In all honesty, like if we were going to be sponsored for something, it would be something that we would use.
oh yeah.
Like something like if we were excited for a game or whatever, and they were like, "Hey, we'll sponsor your stream and give you a code or whatever," then we would do that. But we would also be upfront with you about the audience about what our views were on such thing, regardless of whether they sponsored us or not. There you go. There's a spiel on sponsors. Anyway, Michael, favorite fast food restaurant?
I feel as though this is foreshadowing. Honestly, I don't know. There's something like really good. Like if we're talking about like the big three, which I do think that the big three are in like their own category just because of how just like big they are.
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King. I would say out of
those Chick-fil-A in there. That's interesting.
Well, I think that like Chick-fil-A is like in its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
When
what about Five Guys?
Like one person thinks about.
They're not very fast.
Here's the thing. I think that when you talk about the big three, I think those big three are Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger King.
Mm.
Those are the big three. Those are like the big three fast food restaurants. And I would say out of those three, I would say probably... I'll probably say Wendy's out of those three. But in general, Chick-fil-A's pretty freaking good. There's one restaurant I would probably say... I don't even know if this is fast food, technically. Hold on. Is it fast food? Or is it just food? Because if we're saying like anything, there's this chicken place that's really close. That is amazing. And it's called Huey Magoo's. Huey Magoo's has some bomb as hell chicken tenders. I haven't tried the sandwiches just yet. But some bomb ass chicken tenders. Call me a tendy man. But so good. And their honey mustard. I don't like honey. I don't like mustard. Honey mustard is pretty good sometimes, but their honey mustard literally is like for me a reason to go there. It's just that good.
Wow.
And the fries are pretty good like most of the time. So I'd probably say that as my answer.
Well,
I guess. Now, keep on. This is like favorite restaurant. There's a difference between like favorite and best, right?
okay.
I would probably have to just say McDonald's, admittedly.
Yeah.
And that's purely because they have probably like some of the more trashy foods in the market. But if anything, if I'm just lazy, or if I'm just like, man, I really want something like, I guess, filling or whatever. I don't know. To me, I can just go there and just find whatever and just.
Oh well, I know what you mean. Like literally for like this is gonna sound weird to like most people, especially out of context, but sometimes I just want like a gross burger. I'm just like, wow, I really want like a burger that I just could taste like the lack of quality in, and that's like, and I'm sorry to all like the fans out there. For me, that's Burger King. Sometimes I go to Burger King when I just want to just have like a gross burger, like one that's like, and that's not even I'm not saying that as like a bad thing. I want a gross burger sometimes. I want something that just feels awful to eat.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, man, this is
Burger
so
King
filling.
just hits that spot.
Yeah.
And Burger King for me hits that spot. Their fries are garbage, but they have a market that I want. They're just like a burger that I just regret after eating.
And see, for McDonald's, like their fries are just okay, but I think because of the amount of salt they put in them, I just can't stop like eating them.
Their McDonald's fries are some of the best fries in the game. Honestly, gotta admit.
I mean, I certainly I would eat them up anytime. Yeah, they're just the perfect junk food place. Whenever I feel like it, I guess.
Yeah, I would say McDonald's
Alright,
as well.
so
Like,
we're
I'm
in the-
pretty close. I'm pretty close to saying Wendy's, but I think Wendy's is more filling than McDonald's. I think that's my biggest problem with McDonald's is that whenever I eat from there, I always feel like I didn't eat anything. Because I guess because the burgers are so thin or whatever, and McDonald's is like I guess with any fast food restaurant, it's a chain, is incredibly hit or miss. There are some McDonald's that are like, oh, you know what, they actually serve pretty good food here, and there's some McDonald's where you're like, yeah, these people don't try. Like you can just tell, like they just do not care.
Also, they also have one of my favorite items out of any fast food menu, which is the McGriddle.
Oh,
I fucking love the McGriddle.
Hmm.
That and they had some pretty good hash browns.
Yeah, the hash browns are always like that's my favorite thing, probably from McDonald's. I enjoy the Big Mac too, but yeah, totally it.
For a different reason, yeah.
Yeah. Each week on the Media Cocktail Podcast, I think like I said that like 3 times now. We talk about what we did in the past week, I guess. Michael, how was your week?
It's been good. I've actually been trying to do like some more reading. I finished, as I said last time, I finished in an instant. But this week I was actually trying to read something a little bit more classic. I was trying to read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Just because it's like such a classic and it's in so much media, I feel as though I should try and read like the original source material.
The original Incredible Hulk.
That's the thing is, I don't. It's still like one of the things I think is like most interesting about like the book, like a short story, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Or I guess it would be more of a novella, or a novelette. It's really unknown if it's like if this like thing is supernatural or not. The only thing I could really say if it's like supernatural or not is like he goes from like being a pretty tall, upright man to like literally described as like a dwarf.
A dwarf.
Yeah. And also it was said that when Mr. Hyde killed a man, he did it using like his like walking cane, and it was said like the cane was like made of like some pretty tough material, but it was found broken in half. But that's it. I don't know if it's like superhuman strength necessarily or not.
It's kind of kept
that's
ambiguous.
Like a lot of it's kept ambiguous, but a lot of like media shows like Mr. Hyde as this fucking super like inhumane thing, which it does say. It says like it in the book that he seemed to have some sort of like malformity that is not really apparent. It's just kind of like you kind of felt it was there, but you don't know what exactly. It's a really strange book. I haven't finished it. I still have like 10 more pages to read. But
I mean, that sounds pretty done almost to me.
It's also like 60 pages.
I mean, hell, by the time this episode comes down, I'm pretty sure you've already finished it. How was that ending?
I can't tell you. But I've been, reading Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I've been replaying one of my favorite RTSs, or just strategy games in general, Cold War Shogun 2. Especially with like the mods I have. I've been having a blast going back at it again. Played as like one of my new favorite, which is like Hojo, because you could just get like a huge line of basically trebuchets and just surround them completely with trebuchets and just lay high explosive ordnance upon them. Just completely bombard them until there's like 50 guys and you just come in with like just like a thing of like your general or a thing of like samurai and just walk in and just steamroll.
What I was gonna mention this because it's funny that you mentioned Shogun 2. I was playing it with a friend of ours, and I won the fastest Total War campaign I have ever won. So me and this friend of ours did a head-to-head. He didn't know how to play the game. He just got it for free, and as part of that Steam like COVID deal thing. So he had he had no idea how to play, and he lost in turn 3. And because it was a head-to-head, it meant I was the winner, so I won the campaign.
3
here's
turns.
the thing. That's why I mentioned to that friend. I was like, "Oh, I see that you have Shogun 2." And he was like saying it very cryptically, like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Did you like, yeah, Shogun 2?" And I was like, "So, did you enjoy it?" And he said, "It's probably good." I was like, "What the fuck does that mean?" I didn't understand, but now that makes a lot of sense, especially with like seeing your achievements of I saw your achievement saying like won a head-to-head game, and I was like, "What?" Like, oh, I guess you won. But I really thought you'd like even though it was the first time, you basically bullied him in like winning the first
No,
time.
I did everything I could to help him. I mean, I bullied him a little bit. I fought the battles for the AI, so kind of. I mean, he didn't have really sound strategy. He sent every guy after my general and ignored my entire army, so I just encircled him. And then he lost that battle, and then when he lost that battle, that counted as his entire army. So then the AI just attacked the city, and then he auto-resolved that battle and lost.
Bro.
And the campaign was over.
I feel as though if it's like his first time, he should have just like not like like have you, a veteran of Total War games, just play. I feel as though he should have just gone for the AI his first campaign.
Yeah.
Because it seems like he got pretty turned off of the game, it seems.
Yeah, he was pretty much done with the game after that. And it wasn't even his fault. It was funny. The auto-resolve battle that I mentioned, he was favored to win like 3-1 or something.
For me, if you ask me, it's the equivalent of like me and Will being like, "Hey, let's get like Guilty Gear Strive."
Yeah,
But
let's do it.
But at the same time, Will has never played like a fucking Guilty Gear game in his life, and I have like literally gone to tourneys, or like I have like so much experience, like literally years of experience with it, and I was like, all right, let's do it, and I just kicked his ass so hard that he stopped playing the game after that.
I didn't even get to do a move.
So
Jackass.
all I can say, Brendan, is Jesus.
And so Total War Shogun 2 though is the game like the first time it was the first Total War game that ever came to my attention. I own it and I'm like, this looks really interesting to play. Never actually do it.
Maybe you could do that on stream someday. Maybe. And I was at the same time I've been playing a game that I actually got Will into, that he's also really been enjoying. A game called Reventure.
That is indeed a very good game.
I don't know. I was like, wow. When I was playing it, I was enjoying it. I was like, wow. I feel as though like out of all the people I know, Will would really enjoy this game. And I got him to play, and no surprise there. He really enjoyed the game.
I mean, it's a pretty fun adventure. I was surprised at like how well thought out the layout of the world was, and like how his how his inventory management system works. It was, yeah. I still have yet to actually finish like the post game,
I'm
Dark
not
Tower dungeon, whatever.
I have no idea about the post game. I literally was like, "Oh, I'm done. Okay, I'm done." Like as soon as I got like ending 100, I didn't even know that there was like an ending 101. But I'm like, yeah, I feel like I got what I wanted.
I don't know. For me, I'm like, I made it this far. I might as well go for like full 100% completion.
Mm-hmm.
The only annoying thing about this post game dungeon, which is the Dark Tower, by the way, is that if you mess up like anywhere in the tower, you basically have to start the entire adventure over again.
As you still have like all 100.
No, I mean, that's what I mean. But I mean, like, you basically are trying to get back to where you left off, though, in the Dark Tower takes quite a bit because
I thought, okay, yeah, you had me scared because I literally thought you were talking like they like reset the game.
Oh no, that'd be
entirely.
even worse. I don't think I would actually I don't think I would have actually gotten around to finishing the post game if that was the case. Though
yeah,
it would be fun to speed run through the game and see how long it would take me to do 100%.
I also have given a game that has been like on my radar for quite a while, mainly because I saw Vinny play a little bit of it, highlights at least. Trials of Mana, and all I could say of like what I played of the demo is I got it, but I was very hesitant to get it because the voice acting for me, like the thing about it's like it seems like the combat is like very fun, and I've actually quite enjoyed like the combat from what I've played so far. And I'm looking forward to see like where it like leads up to. The story is pretty generic, but you know this is like this is a remake of like the third game from like I think it was like the SNES or like something similar to that.
Yeah, 95 SNES. Like not only like have a story from the SNES era, but also have 6 main stories.
I played a bit of this, so I know what you're talking about.
But and honestly, what you said there, Will, I thought it was like super interesting that you could actually pick the main character you want to like. Because it's usually like, okay, you're like this character, like you're this creative character. You have to go through their story this way.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was like super cool that you could actually have like a character that you're like, yeah, this is going to be my main character, and the character goes like around them. I don't know how much it like actually changes the story, but I still thought that was like super cool.
Oh yeah, how like you can just like from the start you just pick your general team, and that's like, okay, this is my party, let's go.
That was the one thing I didn't know either, was because I know it said like pick 3. I didn't know if it was like you permanently pick those 3, like you can't get any other party members after that other than those 3 of like the 6, and that's like the group that you're locked into, or you get the 3 for like the demo, and then you as you like go further into the adventure, you eventually pick up like the other like 3.
Yeah.
But it's like more like their own story thing, like in their own like lands or whatever.
Yeah, it's not like Out the Path Traveler where you eventually pick up all of the party members. It's you pick the 3 and you're basically stuck with them for the entire game.
I guess there's like a little bit of like interest there where it's like you can. It's a little disappointing because I would like to see all the characters in one run, but I guess you could do like another run and see like all the other things from the other characters' perspective and like their stories.
Well, like it's a game from the SNES era, so like the main story in of itself doesn't take that long to play. So it kind of having those multiple characters sort of adds replay value to be like, okay, I played through this guy's story. What's this guy about now?
Yeah. And I've had like some other than like the Trials of Mana, which it's like that and like the voice acting. The English voice acting, I'm sorry, it's not that great. Since you've played a little bit, Brendan, do you know what I'm talking about with like the English voice acting?
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's very like overly happy. I would say like they sound like cutesy anime characters.
I know what you mean.
They do that weird thing that I really do not like from Japan, or when people do like English dubs of Japanese stuff, where they do like the cutesy little girl voice, which is just very off-putting.
Since our language doesn't
are you
really
talking
like,
about
especially considering how they dress up those characters, it's very very off-putting.
Yeah, I think you're talking about like Charlotte, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I don't know if he even remembers the name of the character.
I do not remember.
I'm
I
pretty sure
went
it's
with
like-
the princess character, I think. Like she was a princess or like a queen or something, and she was like the queen of the
That's like-
Amazons, and she was gonna like beat somebody up.
I think that's Eritz. I think that's Eritz or something like that. I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about though.
She at
who did
least
you pick
sounded
for,
like
the others?
closer to an adult.
Who was your party? Who was the party that you chose?
I don't remember. I think I just think I chose him mixed. Like one person was like a fairy thing, and then like one guy was like Gohan. He was like Gohan.
I at least think I know you picked either the fighter or like the Beastman guy. I think.
Yeah.
Based off that character description.
Yeah. I think it was something like that.
And
I started
Second
playing
one,
it, and what's funny, my feeling on it was like, this is like trashy, almost like borderline. And I was like, you know what? I put it on my wish list because of it. I was like, you know what? I kind of want to play this just because I feel like playing like hot trash. Like just like playing something that's like not that it's like
Don't-
poorly made. I don't think it was poorly made at all. It actually ran great.
But
And
like,
it,
it's not
worked
something
well.
you would put a lot of thought into while playing.
Yeah, but like
Or
something that like you just do not put a lot of thought into, and you just play it for like the combat or whatever, and then you're done. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I picked Hawkeye, which was like was like and I think like his like entire story is like really weird because literally it was him like going into like breaking into this guy's house to like steal his like treasure, that's like rich merchant, and he wakes up, goes at you, and is like, "What are you doing?" And you just like lecture him while he's still in bed, and he could like call the guards like any second, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, after my lecture, sayonara," and you like leave, and he just like pouts in his bed, and it's like, what the fuck is happening?
It felt so much like a kid's game. Like it felt like so very like cutesy. Like it was like trying too hard to be like appealing to everybody, I guess.
Yeah.
But I gotta say though, like
I guess
probably the most disappointing aspect of the Trials of Mana remake, however, is due to the fact that there is no multiplayer element.
Oh yeah, when we were all desperate to look for a multiplayer game.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, that sounds like really cool," and then learning that they actually took it out of the game.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
And that was like really disappointing because I think that would be like a perfect game to have like multiplayer in, especially like actually playing like the combat and stuff. And
Yeah, especially with the three of us, because it would literally be three player.
It would be
right?
perfect, but no, we would have to play the original Trials of Mana if we want to do that.
Goodness.
which fuck that, no.
I mean, it's on Switch.
Sorry, but no. Sorry, but no.
Yeah.
And I guess with like other media, last thing is I've only watched like the first 2 episodes, but I checked out the Amazon Prime Video show Invincible, and honestly, it's pretty good so far. I've gotten further than Will, who just turned it off. But from what I saw so far, it's pretty good. I'm enjoying like the direction it's going so far. I don't know everything, and I've practically already watched episode 8 by like clips. Sorry, but I'm like super interested to see like why like the
How
journey
it gets there.
to how it gets there, like the final conclusion. Because I didn't see like the very 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 end, like the resolution to the episode 8, but I'm just very curious to see like how this entire thing like ends, and I'm excited to go back into it. Other than that, had some work done in my teeth, 3 fillings, and finally putting in a crown. That I'm still trying to get used to. But other than that, that's pretty much my week. Will, how about you, how's things going with you?
It's been going all right. Like Michael has said, I've given Reventure out a try, which turned out to be really great. It's just one of those games that, like, at first glance, I'm like, it can't be like all that big, right? You know, it's an indie game. How much could it really be?
Not only that, but it was like $2 that they were giving it for.
Yeah. So it's like, that could be this like what hour or two, or whatever. No, the world ended up being way bigger than I initially thought. And again, like the entire place is interconnected. It's kind of like it's almost like a Metroidvania in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. But yeah, it was a good game. Other than that, I've also tried Kingdoms of Amalur again, since that's one of those games I've like heard a bit about when it first came out.
What console is Kingdom of Amalur supposed to be on?
It's on
It
there
is out
now,
on PC
but-
now. But I'm pretty sure it was originally Xbox 360 exclusive.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the intention though, because it was going to be like a big MMO at some point. Like it came out of a love for WoW.
Yeah. Well, just looking at the game itself, like you could tell, it looks like it was very much inspired by WoW.
Yeah.
Like given like how the world design kind of has that sort of cartoony fantasy look to it,
Mm-hmm.
but still kind of grim. And even like how the quest marker is set up, like coming from WoW, it's like, yeah, they pretty much just sort of copied the side quest HUD, where it's just you got the exclamation point for the side quest giver, and then you just got a little circle pointing you. Okay, just it's over here.
Right here, officer.
And much like an MMO, I couldn't really give a damn on what the context of what I'm doing is.
Yeah.
Like there's
Which we had a huge discussion about in during Will's Postal 2 stream.
Yeah.
plug.
Plug.
And like there's a couple interesting side quests. Like there's one where you see a human cursed, but he's not actually human. He's a wolf that got cursed into being a human. So you gotta break that curse.
Mm.
And like the story itself was kind of interesting, but like the actual task itself was just
Who cares?
yeah. I mean, it was a little interesting how like the water kind of teleported around the map, but like it's pretty easy solution, so it's like no big deal.
Yeah.
One of the things I've actually been finding out is like super hard to do within media, for nearly any media, is the two hardest things in media is, and it's both trying to convince a player that they're getting a player immersed into their world, and also getting a person to feel empathy for the characters in that world, to get them to care about what happens to these characters.
It can be a very tough job to, yeah. I mean, look at The Last of Us.
Yeah, I mean, Last of Us was like really good at like getting you to really care about those characters, but it's actually like a fucking insanely hard thing to do.
Oh yeah, like especially in the gameplay setting, you know, where it's like sometimes you want to protect that person. You're like, why? I don't want to say that person. I'm just gonna let them die off to the wolves.
Yeah, it's actually getting you to like actually care, because especially there's like those like little gamer things that we like to do. We're just like, hey, let me just see what happens if I could just this person I'm supposed to be protecting. Let me just quick save and let's just see what happens if I shoot them right in the head. Do they die? Oh, they're dead.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, all right. Reload the quick save. All right, let's go. We're next.
I mean, that's just
it makes it a little interesting, but it also takes away from like the actual like feeling of immersion of being in this like cool world that we're supposed to care about.
yeah. Although the whole quick save thing is also a whole thing of like the lack of permanency. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I wonder what happens if I just murder everyone in the town. Quick save. Oh, I'm dead. All right, reloading save.
All right, not going to do that. Or you could literally just be like, okay, I'm not going to sleep until everyone in this fucking village is a fucking corpse. and just go on a rampage until you're done you're done doing that, and you're like, okay, that was fun. Well, they're dead now. You might as well keep it that way, or just redoing the quick save.
Although with games like that, if you really want to try and get immersed, there's a certain amount of willpower to not abuse that kind of system. But yeah, Kingdoms of Amalur, like, talk about such an okay game, but my god, the story of it is far more fascinating.
Yeah, but behind the development than the
like the fact that the fact that the game managed to put Rhode Island into like not bankruptcy, but like just in a financial crisis. Yeah.
Holy shit! What?
Oh yeah,
you
like
know that?
yeah, like
No.
the studio in Rhode Island were banking on this game just being like the next Elder Scrolls or something.
Okay, I think I misheard it because I didn't hear the studio in Rhode Island. I heard Rhode Island. Like, this game put the entire state of Rhode Island.
Oh no, it did.
into...
No, yeah, that.
What?
Yeah, like the Rhode Island government funded the game, and the game just didn't do well enough.
What?
Yeah, it's a
That's
fascinating
fucking
story. We'll have
crazy.
to look at it at some point.
That's what
Yeah.
we're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
again, the game itself is so okay, but like you read the story, you're like, Jesus Christ, this development. Like you find out that like I think it got Tom Savini was the artist's name, the guy who did Spawn, to do the art for Kingdom of Amalur. And again, like this was originally an MMO, which would explain the world size and even some of the combat, because it's mostly active or real time, right?
Yeah.
But like there are some abilities that you use but will be on cooldown for a little bit. So I can see some of that MMO elements in there. But just in a single player game. It kind of makes me wish they kept the MMO element, admittedly, because you have this gigantic world and there's just like nothing there. Granted, it's the world, or how the world is set up is less like one gigantic open field or whatever. It's more like a series of open areas connected by tunnels. Kind of like how the how Twilight Princess's overworld is laid out. How like you just have these areas to explore, but with tunnels in between.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I understand about the game, is that it's actually like fairly MMO-ish. Like,
Yeah.
the set pieces are really cool, but like it doesn't go anywhere with it. It's just set pieces.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
you can't even jump.
It does. It's actually funny because it's like I was there are actually a fair bit of games that actually are just like MMORPGs, just single player. Like honestly, I might be complete. You might disagree with me, but I think that at least Dragon Age Origins, the one I actually remember, is kind of like that. Has like a bunch of cooldowns very similar to like an MMORPG, and this combat system very similar to an MMORPG.
Oh no,
But it's a single player game, and it actually is a pretty well single player game.
oh yeah, no, like that was part of the reason why I got turned off by Dragon Age Origins when I first played it, especially on PlayStation 3. I was playing this and I'm like, man, this combat reminds me so much of WoW. This sucks.
Wow, what a bad game.
And so I wrote it
Totally.
off. It wasn't until one of our friends was talking up Dragon Age Origins that I decided to give it a shot, especially since I got it for free on Origin.
Hell yeah.
So it's like, yeah, this is like the perfect time to play it again. And yeah, just taking it for what it is, it's actually a really damn fun game.
I
But
will still never forgive Dragon Age 2 for literally soft locking me in the game. I literally got soft locked and I couldn't, and it like ended my entire gaming thing for that game. I was actually enjoying it too, but I got soft locked from the story.
like, was like a character wouldn't do anything specific, or like
Literally, it like told me to talk to this person. I can't remember. But it was like in one of like the in the town, or like the big old city, and I talked to that person, but the game would not acknowledge that I actually talked to that person, and I would try and like reload, and that person was gone. So,
oh my god!
And so it was literally, and this was main story too. And this was for like the Xbox 360, I think. Literally, the game wanted me to talk to this person that was not there, and I already talked to, so they already thought the thing was, but I couldn't do anything. I was literally soft locked out of the story, and it was the main story too. And I was like, okay, bet, then goodbye.
I mean, kind of similar to what happened to me in The Witcher 1. I'm like, oh, you're just gonna like not let me progress? All right, fine.
I'm out. Yeah.
I beat the game.
Important that like you recognize that like I've given enough time here.
Like, there's that part of me that
maybe
wants
I
to
would-
go back and finish it one day.
Yeah, same for like for me for like Dragon Age 2. It's been like enough time to where it's like, okay, I wouldn't mind, putting some more time into it. So if it happens again though, never again. Literally not going back to that game again. But I wouldn't mind
give
giving
so
it
many
just like another
chances.
try, seeing where it goes.
So you can only give so many chances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. If it happens like straight up twice in a row, it's like, man, that is some luck.
Yeah, it's like, oh wow, some luck. Bet. Later. Except no.
Yeah.
I'm not touching you again.
So yeah, Kingdom of Amalur is such an okay game. How are you doing, Brendan?
Brendan.
So I'm in that phase right now. I'm sure you guys know or completely understand this phase. We're just
Yes.
you're trying to like find something to play, but like nothing's sticking. So you're just cycling through like a ton of stuff.
A feeling I know all too well.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at right now. So over the last week, I've played a ton of stuff. I played like almost a full campaign of Rome Total War 2. I played Rome Total War Remastered. I played Persona 4. I played Persona 5. I played Resident Evil 4. I played Resident Evil 2. I played Hearts of Iron 4. I played The Witness. I played The Stranding. I played The Surge. I played Loop Hero. I played this kind of really cool like alpha for a game, like a rhythm game called Unbeatable White Label, which I really like the soundtrack for, but the I like the art style as well. But the actual like rhythm mechanics of it, like trying to time that right, I'm not a big fan of yet. Like I don't think it gives the player enough feedback. But I'm not judging it too harshly. It's an alpha, so I want to see where that goes. I'm very interested in how they do. But the soundtrack for that I think is really, really cool. It reminds me a lot of this show, very famous anime, Fooly Cooly. It reminds me a lot of that kind of like art style and that kind of like musical presentation. So I'm interested to see where that goes. I'm also still slowly making my way through that Doom Eternal DLC, which every day I get closer and closer to being like, okay, I'm installing. The reason why is not because I hate the gameplay loop. It's because in the DLC, you basically have to be perfect in order to progress. And if you make any mistake, you're going to be sent back to start the encounter over again. I'm not even at a boss yet. I'm still in like these combat arenas that they throw you into. And by the time that you get through one of these combat arenas, you're just exhausted. And they throw, in this DLC, especially in this final mission that I'm playing, they throw it at you over and over and over and over and over. And if you like the loop, you're probably going to be alright. But for me, at this point, I like the loop. It's so exhausting.
I mean, like,
oh
send you like 5 waves at you at once. Or not at once, but
well,
like...
the waves just go on and on. They send 5 waves at you, each of which ends with a special demon. And now they all end with the double Marauder.
Oh, God.
So after you get through all of that, and by the way, if you died at that Marauder, you're not sent back to the part where the Marauder shows up. You're sent to the beginning, which is about 10 to 15 minutes.
So you don't have like any extra lives or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some extra lives in the DLC, but they give you like 1 or 2 of them.
It feels like it's far more like few in between compared to the base game.
Yeah. So as much as I enjoy Doom Eternal, it is such a slog to get through. As I fight through these combat arenas, and then you get through like a little bit of level traversal, like platforming, whatever, and then you're right back into another one. And it's like, I just did this. I just struggled with the last one. Do I really want to do this again? And I'm on the last level of the first part of the DLC. So there's 2 parts. There's the part 1 or whatever it is. I can't remember the name of it. Well, let me pull up the name of that. It's like part 1 and part 2 of I keep wanting to say Scholar to the First Sin, but it's not what it's called at all. It's called Agent Gods.
Yeah, that's
Agent Gods part
2.
1 and part 2. Yeah, I know, right?
Right. Oh god, I can't even imagine what the second part's gonna be like gameplay wise.
Yeah, it is shorter. And they did say in the second part that they want you to feel more empowered as a player, whereas in part 1 they want you to feel really, really weak. So that's an interesting way to look at it.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So to cycle back through all that ton of stuff I played through, I played a campaign of Rome 2 Total War, and the reason why I did that is because I hadn't really played the game, like given it a serious look, since 2014 was the last time I had completed a campaign or anything like that. And they were patching this game up into 2018, which is crazy, considering that the game came out in 2013. And so I was like, all right, you know what, I'll take a second look at it. And especially like after the release of Rome Total War Remastered, in which a lot of the community was like, hey, Rome 2 isn't that bad compared to this, looking back on it. So we were like, okay, a lot of us were like, all right, let's go back and play Rome 2 again. And I did that. I like it fine. I think there's a lot of like, there's a lot of shallowness to it, where it seems like they had a really cool idea to do a robust feature in some of these places, and it just devolves to, okay, click this button, and it solves the problem. So or they were adding things in because the community was asking for it, but they didn't understand why the community was asking for it, so they just threw it in. So for an example of that is family trees. So in the original Rome, you got super attached to these characters, and these generals would like give speeches based off their characteristics and like all this stuff. Think early Crusader Kings in terms of some of these characteristics. Like it was actually really funny. So like the general speeches would give you a hint of what the characteristics were. Like if the character was a drunk, he would slur his words. If he didn't like Gauls, he would say, "Oh, the Gauls suck." If like they would comment out, and of course it was like the same voice actor who did all of them. But still, even then, you still felt an attachment to your character and immersed in that gameplay because it was matching what you saw on the grand strategy stage. In Rome 2, there's none of that. It like there's like the general says like one or two things, and then like one speech I noticed like was a callback to Rome 1, which I thought was, I guess, nice. But that was it. But the sieges, and going to Rome 2 now, the sieges in Rome 2 are actually very well put together. The city streets are very wide, the walls are really big, the soldiers now respond to you ordering them up and down the wall. It was just kind of like a fun... It was like fine, you know, like you were playing this and you're like, there is nothing really all that offensive here compared to the first one. There are some things that are like a little missing. But
I guess here's a question though. I guess to ask: do you think it's worth the price tag though? Even
absolutely.
as like for someone who got it for, you think so?
Absolutely, that game is hundreds of hours of content. If you enjoy the gameplay loop of a Total War game and you are interested in the themes of like the ancient era or the era of antiquity, absolutely, it's totally worth getting. The game gets super cheap now. It's like $10 at some points. Even without the DLC, which all the DLC is, it's just expansion to the campaigns. Like, it's like, okay, it's the same campaign, but in Greece. Or it's the same campaign, but it's Rome versus Carthage. Or, you know, like, just, it's not really, like, the DLC isn't all that worth it. Because it's expansion upon the gameplay loop. It's not really, like, adding anything substantive. All that stuff was added in patches. So, honestly, now it is well worth playing. And it has, honestly, I would say, like, pound for pound, it would give you more value than Rome Remaster would. Because there's more factions to play as in Rome 2, there's more stuff to do, there's more eras, there's more unit cards, there's more depth to the world than there. What I really want is a marriage between the two games. I want something with the style and like pizzazz, I guess, of Rome 1 with the depth, some of the more campaign depth, and I guess like combat design and like city design of Rome 2. I feel like the merger of those two games would be really, really good. Because what Rome 2's biggest flaw for me is it lacks character. Like it just feels very bland. Like it's like, yeah, it's cool, there's Romans and there's stuff like that, but there's no like real thrust to the game pulling you into it. It's just like, okay, yep, I gotta take the city and yeah, march for Rome. Like, but that
it kind of feels like hollow almost.
Yeah. Where in Rome 2, there's a lot of character to it, but the gameplay is kind of Rome 1. Sorry, the gameplay is kind of broken. Like the AI doesn't always like listen to what it's supposed to do. Like sometimes it'll just sit there and like it's not very good AI. And the improvements that have been made to Rome 2 make it way more playable in that sense. So it's very interesting. I've been on a long story with that game.
I mean, it just kind of sounds like. It just kind of sounds like it was just an okay game marred by like its state of release. I remember seeing videos of like all the bugs and glitches that game came out with.
Yes, especially after Shogun 2, you know, which was like heralded as a classic the second it came out.
Yeah, I think at the same time it was also like it had quite a name to live up to. Like people, you know, whenever you see Total War Rome 2 or Rome Total War 2. You're going to think, okay, how is this like compared to like the first game? That's like a natural expectation. And when people saw like, oh, like these gameplay things were better, but you know, as you said, the character of like the game was worse. Like the game itself was worse.
It's not necessarily like worse. Really it's just lacking. Like it doesn't really have its own sense of like character and presence. You know how Shogun 2 like it has a tone to it. It has like you can tell like. They knew what they were doing with the game. Like it has an artistic aesthetic that is like aged very well. You know, you can tell that it just put a lot of thought and a lot of care into it. With Rome 2, it feels like the work was there, but the heart wasn't in it as much.
Like they did it just because, or like the look of it was just because it was Rome or whatever.
Yeah, like it felt like it feels like they had to do these things, and it comes from like this like misunderstanding of why people liked the first one. And you can see what the intention was everywhere, like everywhere. There's all kinds of that game was littered with. This was a really cool idea that somebody had. They did not execute, and they were rushed to complete it. It's full of those. Like you can just totally tell, like, oh, I know where they were going with here. Oh, this was going to be expanded, but they had to cut it back because of budget cuts or whatever, or because they moved on, or you know. You can totally tell the grand ambition behind that game, and it serves as like a really interesting like artifact of the franchise. What's something interesting that was mentioned in the No Clip documentary is that the staff, whenever Rome 2 is talked about, gets very quiet. Anybody that worked on that game doesn't want to talk about its development. So something happened there. And in the marketing side of it, like they were saying that it was the biggest budget Total War game ever, which I believe.
Not
something
for the reasons
there.
they want you
There's
to.
There's a story there that's very interesting. That has now turned into this like okay game. Sorry, what'd you say, Will?
I was saying it's the biggest budget Total War game, but not for the reasons you think it is.
Maybe that might be the thing. They said that when in the pre-roll stuff, when they announced the game, they said it was the biggest Total War budget ever. They haven't said that since then, which is interesting.
Yeah,
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
which shout out to them also, just as kind of like a side thing. Seems as though they're really getting buddy with the Warhammer group.
Yeah. Their contract lasts for one more game, which is the newest one, Total War 3 Kingdom, or Total War.
Yeah, the one that's coming out pretty
Warhammer
soon.
3. Yeah. Which apparently will not be all that big of an upgrade compared to 2 because it just runs off of 2. I'm interested in what that game looks like. That game is actually 2 years late. That game was supposed to be a 2020 game, but obviously because of COVID, that didn't happen. And also the next historical game might be, as I was talking to you guys earlier today, it might be a Pike and Shot Europa game. And the reason why that is because there's rumors right now that Sega is in conversations about expanding the Warhammer Total War universe because it was so successful. And what they might do next is there's a certain era that involves a lot of Pike and Shot in Warhammer, and I don't know the lore or anything like that, so I couldn't speak to that.
Bro,
But
trust me.
yeah.
Neither do most people. There's so much lore in Warhammer, it will actually make you go spin in circles.
Yeah.
But it's
So
not shame.
as a test for that, a lot of people think, oh, the next historical Total War game will be a Pike and Shot era game, just so they have all the stuff for it. So when they convert it to Warhammer, there's less work to do.
I mean, like I said, I absolutely love like the Pike and Shot like era. I am totally down for another Pike and Shot attempt. If it may, and possibly because we have like a lot of like stuff where it's like we have like Shogun, Rome Total War, 3 Kingdoms, where it's like a lot of like very very old like technology where it's like sword and shield, mainly like a lot of sword, shield, bow and arrow type stuff. But I think it would be interesting to have something more like Empire Total War or Napoleon Total War, because I love the gunpowder era, and I would like to see them do like more stuff from like that era, because I think it's a thing that's not really talked about. So if they can, actually get make a pretty good game out of this, maybe they'll do more stuff out of it. That's my hope, at least.
I'm
Since they have,
interested
like,
in
all
good
the
games.
stuff like kind of set.
Whatever's good, I also played some of Persona 5 and Persona 4. I like both of them. I like Persona 5 way more than I like Persona 4, from what I've played so far. I just think that Persona 5 has so much, again, like what I was talking about, so much character to it. There's so much like work and like just elbow grease in it. Like you can tell that they've really learned from all the previous titles.
Oh yeah. Well, like
here's the thing I've always heard about for Persona 5 versus Persona 4. Persona 5 is just objectively a better game in terms of like mechanics and everything. However, there's people that do like the story of Persona 4 better than Persona 5. But once again, but I also think that especially things of like story is extremely like subjective. But so whenever I'm interested to see how I like the story of Persona 4 when I get to it eventually, but At least that's what I heard about it, because I have like 2 friends who were huge fans of Persona 4. That's what they usually said about it.
It is interesting because there definitely seems to be like a bit of a split between all the fans of the, not all the Persona games, but like starting from Persona 3 onwards, since that was the one that like started the Persona formula. I want to say the social link and all that.
Like the proper, like what we know Persona now.
Yeah.
At least.
And like playing 3, it is very obvious that it was the first attempt. But it did have a really good story to back up with it, even though it probably has some of the weaker side characters, admittedly.
Mm-hmm.
And for 4, it was just like they made that slight improvement to the gameplay and some of the story elements.
Mm-hmm.
But although they also improved the random dungeon element, because that was like my least favorite part of Persona 3 was just trying to get through the TARDIS. It took so goddamn long to get through that. But yeah, I would have. All right. And there's also one other thing I think was interesting, but like I don't want to say because like it's related to like some of the ending stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just like for those 3 though, there's definitely something there that like people love differently.
Yeah.
And
like people love the Persona
yeah.
3 for like being the darkest one of the trilogy, that some people like to say, thematic wise. I mean.
Yeah. They're very happy-go-lucky. The 2 I've played, like they're very like cheery. Even when they're
3,
dealing with like dark stuff.
Yeah. Well, 3 can also be pretty cheery, but like there's definitely is more of a melancholy undertone to it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And also, like for Persona, especially like Persona 5, it has like a lot of like. The only word I can really call is like style. Like it's like a very stylish game. With all like the different things that they try and like make very flashy and stuff like that, which I also think really helps Persona 5.
I would 100% agree with that. It's part of the reason why I like Persona 5 so much is the music and the art design and like not so much the story. Although the story was intriguing. I'm still in the first boss area, the first dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and like it's pretty heavy right off the bat. Like they do us an interesting subject. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a pretty harsh subject to just talk about right off the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how your opinions on it as you go further through the Persona game, Persona 5 specifically, since I haven't even finished Persona 4 myself, or nor even started it.
I'm only an hour into Persona 4, and I'm like 10 hours into Persona 5. I'll tell you what, like if I had Persona 5 on PC, I'd probably blast through that right now. But because it's like on my PS4 and it's so much harder to set that up, I'm always like, ugh. It's not even that much harder. It's just mildly harder. So I had to plug in stuff and move things around.
And now they got Persona 4 Golden on PC. We could hope that Persona 5 Royal will come shortly after.
Honestly, I feel like
that's a hope.
I feel like they're gonna say that Persona 5 will become the PC, not Royal, just 5.
Yeah, because Atlas fucking hates money.
Like fucking.
Yeah, I feel like that is what's going to happen. Is they're gonna announce
like
Persona
fucking Capcom and
PC.
Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
Capcom is being like, hey, we got Devil May Cry 5 for all consoles except you PC players. Don't get it.
Yeah. Speaking of Capcom, I've also been playing Resident Evil 4 and 2. Again, I just like a ton of stuff. 4 I like. I really 4 I'm actually really torn on because I like the art design of 4. I like the characters of 4, kind of. Except for Leon, I think Leon's boring. But like just the controls of it are just so like slow. Like no matter how much I like try to like push up the sensitivity or whatever, it just feels so sluggish. And the way that I interact with the world, I really don't like. Like there was something I thought was ridiculous was there was a diamond jewel hanging above a well, and the well had like dirty water in it or whatever. And it was like the only way that you could get it down was not if you knock it down with your knife or just reach with your hand, because it was literally like you could look at it. You had to shoot it with your gun, and then it would fall on the thing because it had to be a dirty one. It couldn't be a regular diamond necklace. It had to be a dirty diamond necklace.
Oh yeah, you're talking about when they're like it's hovering above like a water or a dirty well or whatever.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I know. So, funnily enough, when I was playing that game, I like shot the wood thing down to block the well, so I could just grab the diamond before or just like, clean.
Or you could have just reached up and grabbed it.
No, that's too much effort.
That was too much work.
But no, like
That's too that's too straightforward.
But because it was still kind of early in the game, I was still trying to get used to the controls and all that. But like I shot the thing down so it would cover the well, right?
Yeah.
However, I accidentally immediately opened the cover back up, and I couldn't close it again.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, I accidentally opened it. Can't close it at least so I can still get the diamond. Oh, I can't close it.
Yeah.
Oh, so now I have to take the dirty diamond because I fucked up. Why do you not close this?
that game just it sits in this like perfect sweet spot of like a bunch of like interesting modern mechanics, but also like on the edge of like, oh, we're still doing this old timey thing. Like it feels like we're almost removed from 10 controls, but like just barely. In terms of like how
it's
plays.
That weird transition, yeah.
Like and by the way, playing 4, it actually was really cool because I was like, oh, I can perfectly see now how they got to 6. Like I totally understand that now.
Oh yeah,
it's a direct line. You can totally tell like how things progress in that. Oh, I found out
some before. I was like reminded so much of Resident Evil 5, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Like,
I'm actually surprised people were as mad as they were, considering what we've played at that series. I'm like, yeah, of course they would do that. Like, of course it turned into that. Like, it seems like very obvious, but playing all those games, but oh well.
I guess 6 must have crossed a line that people just had enough of, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm still, even to this day, I'm still personally offended that you guys have decided to, 5 was too much, but 6 is fine.
Oh yeah, we finished 6, but we did not. We technically did not finish 5, even though we got right to the end of 5.
We got to the final boss, and we got sick of it.
Yeah, I was so annoyed.
Actually, fucking heard about that.
Yeah, I was so annoyed. Anyway, I found out actually. Speaking of Resident Evil, I found out a minor spoiler for RE8, and it's fine to share here. It's like the minorest of spoilers. Chris Redfield is in the game, and when one of the enemies is berating Chris Redfield, they call him a boulder punching idiot or something like that. Which is funny because in RE5 he like has to punch that rock out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, it's like literally
funny intentions
punching a boulder.
That's kind of funny, but I'm disappointed that you spoiled the game for me. I cannot be friends with you anymore, Brendan.
Wow. That was it?
I was so looking forward to being stepped on by Madam D. And now you ruined it. You ruined all the thrill.
Anyway. It makes me very excited to see what they're going to do with the Resident Evil 4 remake that they've said that they're going to do, and the VR one that's coming out as well.
I am very much looking forward to not being able to play the Resident Evil 4 VR game, because apparently that's Quest 2 exclusive.
Yeah.
Thanks, Facebook.
That's fun.
Hell yeah.
Although I don't think Capcom will say no to money, so I think eventually it'll come to everything. But we'll see.
Again, depends on like what the behind the scenes contract is or whatever.
Yeah, if it's timed or not or whatever.
Or maybe just the Rift S hardware can't handle it.
I guess so. Speaking of remakes, I played the Resident Evil 2 remake. I love that game. I think that game's awesome. But I actually am picking up from a save where I got stuck before. I don't know if you guys remember this. This is a long ago stream. When the game came out, I was streaming it. And I got to a point where, like, there was a guy chasing after you. And you had to hit him with, like, some kind of, like... What is that called? Like a crate train? Like a train car?
I know.
You had to hit him with some
It's
kind of, like,
a
crate object. Yeah. And I could never get the timing right, and so I quit, and I never played it again. Until 2 days ago, when I had my PS4 on, and I was like, you know what, I kind of want to go back and try that again. And so I went through and I played for another hour. That game's still great. I think that game is going to hold up really, really well. It's very weird considering what it is, which is that it's a really, really good remake of an old game, where it's basically not even the same thing anymore. So that's that's like an interesting thing to talk about. But
it's definitely up there for like Resident Evil 7 for me, where it's like, man, this is so far removed from the original game, it might as well be its own thing.
I'm totally fine with it being a Resident Evil game. Just being Resident Evil 2 is very odd, you know.
No, I'm not saying it should have been like its own title outside of Resident Evil. I meant specifically it should not have been like Resident Evil 2 remake. It would have been like, oh yeah, this is like a Resident Evil, but you know, just have
it's a retelling of 2, like it's a reimagining of 2 or something like that. Yeah. So I tried that. Played some Hoi 4, Hearts of Iron 4. I'm kind of a big fan of Paradox games, but the big thing with Paradox games with me, at a certain point, whether that's 50 hours in, or 5 hours in, or 2 hours in, or whatever, however long I play it, eventually I reach the point of like, okay, I'm just map painting at this point. I'm not really getting much out of like the lore of the strategy that I'm doing here, and it's not all that engaging. So I just kind of like wind up bouncing, or there's a DLC practice that I don't like or whatever. And Hoi 4's case, I've played so much of it. I played like 134 hours of it over the course of a couple of years. And I was playing it the other day, and I was like, okay. Like, I don't really find it fun to be the Soviet Union and conquer the world, and I don't really find it fun to be like Brazil and like form like the Brazilian Republic or whatever. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, it's fun for like the first bit, but after a while, it's like, yep, I've kind of seen and done everything. So I moved on from that. I also tried out The Witness, which I played for like 20 minutes or so. It's an interesting little puzzle game. I don't really see why everybody was like all like excited about it, but it's interesting. Basically, what you do in that game is you like walk up to. They'll have a set of 5 puzzles that you have to complete, and usually it's like it goes from like the easiest to hardest. Like the first 2 like teach you the mechanic of the puzzle, and then the last 3 are like difficult challenges based off that puzzle. Each time I would get the last one, I was like, I don't know what to do. And the thing I did think was interesting is that each zone in the game is locked off through a puzzle. So you have to solve one of those puzzles, and you have to use the mechanics you learned of filling out each one of those panels to solve the puzzles. And I was like, okay, I can. That's interesting. Like, if you really like this puzzle thing, then like, I could totally get why someone could get really into that. Moving on from that, I played Death Stranding, which is basically like photo taking simulator for me. I played like an hour and a half of Death Stranding, and Death Stranding I'm so torn on. I'm glad it exists. I love that it exists. I think it's really rare that we get like weird games that had like AAA funding.
And this is like Kojima's first game outside of Metal Gear too.
Yeah, it's his first one outside of Metal Gear. Like, there's a bunch of cool stuff around it, but like the hype around Kojima, I'm sorry, it is just too much. Like,
it's so much. It feels
like
literally so much.
And it feels like it's rubbing off on him too. Like the story of Death Stranding is so like, it just feels like somebody that thinks they know what they're doing, but they don't.
It's so far up its own ass.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just like the world is cool. Like, I like the world design, but like the character names are like so weird. Like, you meet a character and his name is Dead Man, and then you meet another character and his name is Die Hard Man.
Oh yeah, it really seems like Kojima just kind of takes his name by like combining English words that sounds cool to him.
Yeah, which he's done forever. To be fair, yeah, he's always done that.
I mean,
Psycho Mantis, Vulcan Raven.
Yeah. I'm only like an hour and a half into the game, so I'm not going to speak too much about it. I love the world design. Like, I love like this like mountainous like Norway kind of design, and I looked at some screenshots of the game. It seems like the biomes kind of change the further you go, which is cool. I'm very interested where they not where they take the story, but where they take like the mechanics. Because at first, and I think this game suffers from a problem of, based off what I've heard about it, of taking too long to teach you the mechanic. So like, they send you on a couple of quests to teach you like, okay, walking is complex in this game. It's not just push forward. You have to do various actions to make sure that you're balanced and that you can do all this stuff. and then eventually you get gear so you can traverse different kinds of environments. And basically, like, the world is a big environmental puzzle, which is really, really cool. But, like, you're not doing it you're not attached to the reason why you're doing it if you don't care about the story. For me, though, I like it because I can take a lot of pictures. I already have screenshots up on my Steam account of, like, different pictures I took and stuff like that.
That's kind of the funny thing, actually. When you said that, like, you started playing it as a photo simulator, I sat there, I'm like, wait, it didn't have a photo mode in it?
Yeah, at first, when the game came out, it did not have a photo mode. That was added later.
It was so weird because I think I'm too used to that now being, like, a feature in the base game.
Yeah.
And given the kind of game Death Stranding is, it just seemed like a photo mode would make so much sense.
Yeah. And also, like, the sound design and the soundtrack to Death Stranding, I think, is awesome. I really love the band Low Roar, which, funny enough, before the game even started development, he found the album of theirs at, like, a random, like, thrift store. And he listened to it and he loved it, so he contacted the band and had them put the music in the game. Which is just a cool story for them, you know?
Yeah, good on them.
I kind of like, if you know anything about Kojima, he's actually a really big movie person. So for me, it's very funny to see, like, different directors that I know, like, make cameo appearances in the game. It's so, like, just, like, random. Like, Nicholas
Guillermo del
Refn is in the
Toro.
game, Guillermo del Toro. There's a couple, I think Kojima himself is in it at some point. Like, it's just, it's so, like, it's such a bizarre thing. And I can't wait to go through it and experience all of it. Anyway,
Very big
He's even in
Hollywood
his,
file.
I'm pretty sure, like, even Kojima is in his Ground Zero game.
Yeah.
Where he was like, what have you been waiting for? Or something like that. And it's like, or like, what took you so long? It's just like, oh, haha, yeah.
Kept you waiting, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is weird. It does seem like Kojima is more interested in filmmaking than, like, game designing.
Yeah, but it seems like he can't say no to games either. So, like, he's, like, caught in this weird space. He's also, like, one of the few, and we were talking about this on Will's Postal 2 stream the other day. He's one of the few game directors that are, like, well-known auteurs in the game industry, where, like, it's somebody that, like, you would, when you think of the game, you attribute it to that person, not to a company or to whatever. Like, when we think of, like, Marvel movies, like, very few, except for people that are really interested in the behind the scenes stuff, would know that, like, the original Avengers was made by, like, Josh Whedon. You know, like, very few people would know, like, you know, like, the directors or whoever. You know them as only, like, Marvel movies. Right. The Russo brothers or, like, examples like that. But, like, in film, a lot of directors transcend that and become, like, the director is more well-known than the movies. Like, two easy directors are Steven Spielberg and Stanley Kubrick, who are very famous directors for the products that they made and all that stuff. So, that doesn't really happen in the game industry. Mostly, I think that happens because the game industry is immensely collaborative. Like, film is really collaborative, but in video games, it's like, unless you're, like, an indie or you're, like, making a small project, it is very rare that you are the only person contributing to that game.
I mean, especially since for games can, like, go wrong on so many levels.
Yeah, exactly.
Films.
Yeah. So, like, in fact, like, we were talking about this the other day. We were like, it doesn't seem like there's an American version of this. Like, they're American game director that is, like, famous, like, for being a game director. And, like, I think there are a couple that are coming up. Like, I think Cory Barlog is good one. Cory Barlog is the guy that directed God of War and is directing a sequel as well. And he's, like, very, like, outspoken and very, not necessarily outspoken, but he's a very forward public person. Like, you can go and find him and he'll do interviews and stuff like that for the game. Where, like, most game directors are, like, either they were selected for the job or they just kind of sit in the background and they're like, they'll go and promote the game, but they're not, you don't think of the game as that director's game. You just think of it as, like, Destiny 2, you know, like, or whatever the game is.
Yeah, again, it's just, you just kind of hear the game, you tie the developer studio behind it, not the actual person.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the studio changes over time as well. BioWare now is not the BioWare that made Dragon Age. You know, it's like almost an entirely different studio. Anyway, I know this is a long segment. I played a lot of stuff.
Very long.
Very long. I also played The Surge and Loop Hero. I like both of those. I'll have more to say probably next week. I only played like a half hour of each, so we'll come back to that later. Anyway, you can find all of our streaming things. I am at Not a Headless Samurai. Will is Some Lost Gamer. And Michael's at Drinks and Fun. We do streams. I'm not going to shout everything out. Just go look. That's that. Anyway, Any Media Cocktail Podcast, we talk about a topic each week recommended by each one of the hosts. So each one of the hosts recommends each week a piece of media to go back and take a look at, or play, or watch, or whatever. So last week, or I guess last episode, the piece of media was Postal 2. Will, why don't you tell us about Postal 2? Since you selected it.
Well, Postal 2 is a 2003 PC game that seemed to like intentionally cause some kind of controversy. If you have ever like looked the game up in any way, you know exactly what I am talking about. If not, I hope you're not a child, because it is not for the child's eyes. Or birthday eyes. I mean, granted, like this show's not
Even
really
though
meant
it
for
feels like it's
children
made
either,
by
so, like,
children, but anyway.
At least like 16-year-olds, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, this show is not really meant for children, so any children in the audience, why are you here? Get the hell out.
I guess so.
Yeah, if you're under 16 or 18, why the hell are you here? You shouldn't be hearing like this type of like language.
What the fuck, man?
Can't believe you'd be using that gamer language.
Will.
What? Anyways,
All right, continue.
Anyway,
so yeah, it's just an early PC game. It's a first-person shoot. Oh, it's kind of weird. It's like kind of a first-person shooter in some aspects, but it's still but it's more like a crappy life sim, I guess. It's just like the main task is just go pay your ticket or whatever, or hey, this person's here, go get his autograph.
Mm-hmm.
Then you just kind of get roped into these first-person shooter segments by the time you finish them up.
No, continue. Go ahead.
I was saying, like, you got any thoughts on the game, Michael? Or do you want me to go first, like always?
We must defer to the king.
Mike.
I guess it's me then. All right.
Sorry, I'm eating.
Oh wow, Mr. Big Man Eating. But in actuality, I made it to, I think what was exactly the last time I made it to, which was just the start of Tuesday, in which I realized, wow, I'm not really having fun. And that's honestly the best way I can describe it, if I'm being perfectly honest. I didn't really have fun. The shooting felt alright, but it all just felt... It felt kind of gross to play, for one. Because it relies on like a lot of like humor that I feel is kind of... that is just kind of like... I have no problem whatsoever at laughing at like lowbrow humor. You know, I think that some people might say like, oh, fart jokes are not funny. Fart jokes can be funny if done right. If but there's a lot of stuff in there that was just like I didn't really give that much of a chuckle. More of just like a sigh of whenever I went to the convenience store and I saw Jihad goat milk, and then I went to the right, went to the back of the store, and there was just a bunch of women with it was just basically like a mask. It wasn't like a burqa. It was just like a mask covering their mouth, just going and just shooting me. I didn't and also a sign that says no employees only, no infidels. I think it was just in really poor taste, and just it felt like it was just trying to say just kind of. I think it honestly did what it was like. The people who did not like it, it was trying to, as blatantly as possible, just push away
Like,
as best as possible.
it does seem like the game is intentionally trying to get a rise out of people. Also, I find it kind of funny that you mentioned that because it makes more sense now. Since I remember on my stream, you screamed out, "How many times are they gonna keep making this joke?" When I saw the sign at the church.
I was on. It was mainly because I was surprised that they did it again.
Yeah, no, like, well, that's what I mean. Like,
I thought there was. I thought, as you said, it was just like an optional thing, and that would have been the end of the joke. It was just going to be that there. But to see that they actually had another set piece with like a guy, like a bunch of like Islamic guys going to a church and like doing that thing, I was like, oh my god, they're still doing it. They are still fucking doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
I was just surprised.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the thing though. Like, playing through it, it seems like they're just kind of repeating the exact same offensive jokes over and over again.
And it's not really funny. And it's just, at least in my opinion, I did not really get much of a rise or a laugh. I was just like, this is just, the two things I felt when I was like playing it was like, this is just really like dumb. This is like really dumb, and this is really like childish. And that was just it. I just could that's pretty much what, like, one of the things. And the other thing was like, it's just so dated. It is just so dated with like everything.
Yeah, there's literally like a 2000 election joke in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's like the election joke that I watched on Will's thing about like trying to make fun of the Florida election, which, 2020. Who the fuck's going to remember that?
No.
I mean, like, these two can attest. Like, when I saw it, I was legit confused on like the actual purpose of this was.
Yeah.
And
they even like do weird ass callbacks to like people that like stuff that happened in like '93. Like it's just anyway. Michael, sorry.
Yeah, like the achievement. Lieberman is our leader after you kill all the video game protesters. I was just confused because I was like, I was legitimately like, call me dumb if you want, if you wish. I'm fine with that. But Lieberman is our leader. Is like, who is this? Why is this here? And why should this be funny? That was like the three things that were like on my mind. Brendan told me like who it was. I was like, oh, I guess. And that's like the answer to like all this, I guess. But it's one thing that I think is just classics and like good games are games that could be played in any generation, I believe, and still have like a bit of an understanding. I mean, even though that we don't live in like 18th century France or 19th century France, Count of Monte Cristo is still like a good book. We still at least recognize what's like mostly going on. Even though that we don't live in fucking the 70s, we understand like Star Wars, the original trilogy, and like and recognize that story that was there. The moment that you start putting pop culture stuff and into like this story and trying to like be like topical is probably like one of the biggest things of making something not last for a very limited time. Because I mean, those jokes, especially about like the Islam stuff, was probably funny in 2000, but now it's like, I don't want to be like the person like, oh, it's current year, but it's 2021. We have like stopped making those jokes for like 10 years now, pretty much. It's just not funny anymore.
Because like when it comes to for me, like when it comes to topical stuff, like it's extremely easy to be dated with that because it relies on you knowing what the time period was or whatever. But if done well, it could be a good time capsule to be like, oh yeah, this was what the 2000s were like. This is fucking nuts.
Which I think in a weird
But
way
Postal
it does,
2,
but-
yeah. But for Postal 2 though, it does go like so far removed into the insanity department that like it's kind of again like you would really have to know the time period to understand the jokes.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like the thing for me. I stopped playing because it's literally a comedy game. It is literally a comedy game that has jokes either too childish and dumb for my liking, or literally too far from the past for me to like even acknowledge, or even care to like try and learn. And it has decent FPS. It has like a decent FPS like mechanics element, but at the same time, don't really care. It literally feels like I'm playing like in the same system of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, like the first one, but I'd much rather play Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, if I'm being perfectly honest. Because at least one of them has like an amazing story.
Well,
bullshit mechanics, but an amazing story to go along with it.
It's crazy because like this entire time, up until a couple of days ago, I could have sworn Postal was in the Source engine, only to realize, oh, it's an Unreal.
Yeah, Unreal Engine 2. It's weird to think about.
Yeah.
And I'm playing this, I'm like, this looks like so much like Half-Life. Like even one of the levels, I get like straight up Half-Life vibe because I'm trying to like exit out of this self-destructing laboratory or whatever with these scientists just wandering about, and I'm like, are you sure this isn't Source?
Well, just because they're making reference
and
to Half-Life doesn't mean it's Source. And if it was 2003, which it says it is on the store page, technically Source wasn't even out yet for public use, because Half-Life 2 was still a year away. So, which is hard to imagine. But
Oh, that is weird.
But yeah, that's pretty much most of everything I have to say. I will in this my little segment with one more thing. I actually was thinking about giving it one more shot until I watched Will play it on his live stream, and then I was like, nah, I'm good. What's the point?
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, because for me, I was somewhat dead set on just at least trying to finish it, right? I got all the way to Thursday. I'm almost done with Thursday. Then I tried to pay for my ticket. I didn't have the money because the game, like the day prior, took all my money away. And as far as I know, there was no way to get it back. So it was like, okay, thank you for making me unable to pay for my ticket, dicks.
So you soft locked yourself.
Well, definitely okay, I think I might have soft locked myself, but I remember I broke into the police department, shooting them down. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just drop off my ticket. I think even the dude, your main character, is like, okay, I guess I'll just go to the drop box and drop it off, right? I get to the very end, to the drop box, have my freaking ticket in hand, and nothing happens. I mash the E button, I'm like going all over the place. I just cannot figure out what to do. I found a police outfit. That was cool. But like, and at that point, I just kind of gave up on it. I was like, okay, I'm done. I got to fucking Thursday. Because for me, it was like, I played this game like back in high school, right? I have a save file all the way back in 2015, maybe, and I'm willing to bet I even had save files before that, but that just got eventually saved over. And I'm willing to bet there was that teenager me that was like, oh yeah, this game is hilarious, so edgy and dark. And nowadays I'm playing it and I'm like, wow, this is fucking boring. Because with Shock
I do think that's probably like the biggest sin of like this game, is ultimately kind of boring.
Yeah. Well, because like a lot of it relies on the initial offensive shock humor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's only so much of that you can really find shocking and or humorous. I kind of became numb after a while. Like, yeah, you're okay. These guys are a terrorist. Okay.
I suppose. I do want to do one thing at the very end, but I will save it for after Will's done speaking and Brennan finishes speaking about it.
All right.
All right. And like even the gunplay mechanic in of itself is just okay, I guess. Granted, the guns feel super weak. Like I can be up against someone's face, shoot them with a shotgun to the head, and they'll be just fine. Or even like shoot a grenade launcher at someone. They take it like point blank, like range
To the chin.
Yeah.
through the chin, and they're still standing. And I'm like, what are you?
I've noticed that bullets and like physical objects that you fire at enemies will also pass through NPCs a lot as well. That's just something to put out there.
Yeah. So it's so like the gunplay, it just ends up feeling mediocre in that regard because it's just like, okay, these guns are like pitifully weak and for whatever reason purposely missing my targets. Thanks.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose, I guess like some of the fun is supposed to come from like some of the more ridiculous weapons. Like you can get a freaking missile launcher, which is kind of funny, admittedly. Or there's a part of me that kind of likes like your flamethrower weapon is straight up just like a can of axe spray with a lighter.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, okay, so but like I just find that the first-person shooter mechanics would be just so bleh that I just don't want to be bothered.
Mm.
And so like, okay, so all that leaves is the humor or like the more crazy elements. But again, you play it long enough, I just don't care anymore. I kind of get sick of it. And even like looking at the game closely, it is not a very good looking game. There is just so much brown. I fucking hate brown in games. It is so ugly to look at. I don't know why games thinks that that's such a good color scheme to go for, but whatever.
And you would say that, I guess, the question is, would you say it looks ugly for, like, even, like, that time, that year of, like, 2003?
Yeah.
In some aspects, yeah, because, like, especially looking at some of the closer textures, like how stretched out they are, or, like, some of the shortcuts that they attempt to do, it's like, this is not appealing to look at in the slightest, which, I'm willing to bet that's what they were going for. Like, again, this is obviously supposed to be a shithole, right?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not a good neighborhood, the people just suck. Obviously, no one really gives a shit. But, like, that's still not a good environment for me to look at. It's also completely confusing, or not completely, it's just confusing to navigate, too. People are gonna call me People are kind of probably gonna call me idiots for not, like, knowing the map, but it's like, how some of the road layouts are, or like trying to get to the mall, because the map doesn't show like a direct road to the mall, on like one or like the northern section of it. I thought I had to cut through the game studio to be able to get to the mall, which I didn't. But the road's hidden from me, so I didn't know where to go.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And even the mall, I'm like, what is this layout? Although I did like. If you ever did watch my stream, like I was an idiot for that one part where I'm like trying to look for Gary Coleman, but I was in the wrong freaking section of the mall. Just and yeah, even and like oddly enough, I get to Thursday, and like there's not been that many crazy stuff going on. Although I guess that whole freaking what was a redneck kidnapping was pretty odd.
Yeah, I remember seeing that and I was like, wow, they put a lot of effort in trying to get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your character's a moron that whole time. Like, he doesn't even hear them, like, sneaking up behind him. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
And like, they were, like, making a bunch of noise, too. Like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, I really wanted to give this game, like, a true shot, since I know it's one of those cult classic kind of games. Or I say cult classic, but... I was like, hey, you know, whatever. This is a 2003 game. People fucking love it, whatever. And yeah, it feels like it's a 2003 game. Not in a good way in the slightest.
Yeah.
it's like it's even with booting up the game, it seems like it's very apparent that the creators did this purely out of like I guess some sort of spite for the ESRB or like game censorship and as a whole. And you know what? I can get behind that. I'm not a fan of censorship as an idea. Go for it. But like this is not the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
Like there's some cool interactions in it, I guess, like pissing on people's faces or just being a general dick, but it's like it's very obvious the game wants you to be a dick, and that punishes you for it.
Yeah, I literally I didn't get punished for it, but I was like, they wouldn't, and so I like when I pissed like straight in the air, and I got an achievement for it.
Or like even like some of the AI, it seems very wonky. Like I would find some people just in the weirdest of buildings. I'm like, okay, what are you doing here? Or I swear,
turnips.
Or I find it really weird how this only happened on my end. Maybe people have less trouble for them, but I swear you would get shot at, right, by the people who hate your guts, and so naturally your response would be, "Oh, they're shooting at me. Well, better get my gun out and defend myself." No, now you're on the policeman's shit list. And it's like,
yeah,
okay.
I remember at one point I was like, Tuesday, it was like the part where I stopped. I went to the bank, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna just wait in line. And so I waited in line, and I paid my, no, I think this was Monday, actually, now I think about it.
Yeah, it was Monday.
Put my check in, and I was like, okay, I'm depositing my money. And seeing, okay, now it's a bank robbery happening. And I shot at the, just trying to protect myself for the most part. And then the police, and as I was protecting myself, policemen were literally shooting at me. It's like, okay. I guess this is happening now.
Yeah, the same thing happened to me.
And
so that's intentional.
Because from what it just seems like the policeman's AI is set to just whoever has their gun out gets immediate attention.
Yeah.
Because like for me, for my playthroughs, whenever I'm in line, I immediately just kind of piss in everyone's faces to get them to leave. But that ends up leading to shootouts, in which like everyone will be shooting at each other, and the policeman will like put your gun down, and then like just all hell will break loose. So yeah, I just think like the policemen are just set up to be like, oh, is there a weapon? Well then, shoot their ass.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks because again, like that means there's nothing you can do when you're getting shot at, without like immediately drawing attention to yourself.
Yeah, just hide and just do nothing.
Yeah.
Which that's fun, right? In a first-person shooter.
Of course.
Hell yeah.
I just wanted to give this. I really wanted to give this game a shot, and you know what? There's a couple times with offensive humor that made me chuckle. Like I remember I was in the library, and just for whatever reason, they had a section of books on how to make bombs, and they had a terrorist just stand there looking at it. I'm like, that's fucking dumb, but whatever. But again, there's only so much shock humor I can take before I just become numb to it, and like, the actual gameplay itself is so fucking boring.
Yeah.
Ugh, yeah.
Well, I think it's about.
I think it's very obvious that like, for a 2003 game, yeah, like this is crazy. I can definitely see why this will draw, or a lot of people drew attention to it. But like nowadays, especially since games nowadays can get away with quite a bit, surprisingly. So it's like now, or you can, if you want to see this kind of screwed up crap, just go play Saints Row.
Yeah, play Saints Row, play GTA. GTA's become a lot more self-aware about that kind of thing. You can play Borderlands. If you want to have a lack of taste, you can go to Borderlands. You can do. There's a bunch of like there's a bunch of things that I can see this like being the dawn of, like someone playing this and being like, oh, you can be a little bit more raunchy or risque or whatever with your games.
Yeah.
I don't know. The only thing that I
Well, I think it's about time
sorry, what?
that we get your opinion.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Well, yeah, but
I
I say
think
like
it's about time
that's
that we get.
Yeah.
that's my take. So what about you, Brendan?
I would like to thank Postal 2 for one thing. I have never scored a video game a 1 before. Congratulations to Postal 2.
Really?
It gets the first 1 from me ever. In terms of a video,
Wow.
the lowest score I'd ever given a video game was like a 4 or a 3. Postal 2 gets a 1.
Whoa! Wow.
Wow, I guess we're still waiting on that too then. But damn.
Postal 2 is a game that is still frequently getting updates. If you know what, I would be generous. It'd be a 2 or a 3 if it had come out and then like they didn't touch it, they didn't look at it again for like decades or whatever, and it sat on Steam or whatever. That'd be one thing. But this game gets regular updates. In fact, it gets such regular updates. There are 2 achievements referencing the GameStop Reddit thing. There's an achievement called "Get Rich Off Reddit." Yeah.
Really?
So they are still frequently
That's-
patching this game. They are still working on this game. There's achievements in the game making fun of the 3rd game they made, which apparently was even worse. I don't even want to look at that.
Oh yeah, because that was done by like, a different studio, I believe.
Yeah. Which is, somehow that's worse. It's beyond me. The level design is terrible. The soundtrack is non-existent. Sound design is terrible. The weapons suck. As a first-person shooter, it doesn't feel like I'm shooting anything. It feels like paper bullets. Like it doesn't, like, for a game that like prides itself on
Airsoft.
violence, it's like not even close to anything. It's ridiculous. The constant humor, like, it's one thing to be like making like a risque joke or like a racist joke or whatever, but when you make that joke over and over again, I'm sorry, you're just racist. Like at a certain point, you just cross the line. If you're doing it over and over and over again without adding any kind of social commentary, without adding any kind of intelligence to it, you're just being like, oh, haha, funny, blow up man. I'm sorry, you're just the thing that you're making fun of at that point. The game is incredibly dated in kind of its references. It's aged super poorly. It led to a comment from me when we were watching it over Will's stream, which I think that stream is actually what saved Michael and I from playing it again. Because both of us at that point were like totally done.
You're welcome, guys. I suffer, so you don't have to.
The only reason why I watched Will's
Thank you,
stream too
Jesus.
was that I was like, okay, maybe it gets like self-aware and better towards the end. Of course it doesn't. No. That game on the start page says, play passive or aggressive. Postal 2 is only as violent as you want it to be. Bullshit. That game does everything
Bull crap.
possible to make you as angry as possible. Every NPC insults you. It has direct missions where you have to go talk to them, and everybody will reject you or to do whatever and make fun of you. Every character will immediately try to get aggressive with you. Every character will push you out of the way. Everything that you have to do is separated by a line of 20 people to make it as infuriating as possible. They do everything possible to make the player like as angry as they possibly could. And you know what? It worked. It just made me not want to play it.
Also, kind of interesting that they say that because, like, when you do your chores, it's basically a mission select screen in disguise.
Yeah.
So, like, you go there, go just tell your chick, and then suddenly there's a shootout, and you're like, okay, I didn't really do anything there. How am I supposed to get out of here? How am I supposed to get out this peacefully?
Yeah. And I just want to say, I'm someone that enjoys
you
risque
just
humor.
don't.
I enjoy South Park, for God's sakes. I like South Park. So, like, I'm not afraid of,
Oh, yeah.
like edgy jokes or like raunchy humor or whatever. But what I look for in that stuff is fucking insight, intelligence, making a point out of it. Even if I disagree with the point, there should still be a point to it. Like there should be a reason why they do this. And the furthest extent of a point that I can possibly get out of Postal 2 is that they were mildly upset about something that happened in the game industry 10 years ago. And they were making jokes about a political thing that happened 3 years ago when they had made it. It's nonsensical. It's stupid. It's too try hard. And it's even worse considering that they still patch it. It's even worse considering they still work on it. Considering the state that game is in, where NPCs literally fall out of the sky, where NPCs literally don't have a fall animation when they jump off of something, they just levitate to the ground. They just spawn in random places if nobody cared where to put them. There's no cohesion to the world. There's not. It's considering the game it is, and how old it is, there's no reason at this point why the whole world couldn't be seamless. They decided they didn't want to do that for whatever reason. Maybe the engine can't handle it, or maybe they just didn't know how. Texturing is awful. Again, sound design is awful. Just like all around, just a bad game. Just bad. Like, I can get playing it at the time and finding that as like a high school student, like, as, like a child. Like, I can understand finding it funny as a child. But no, not anymore. It's just absolutely
not enough
ridiculous.
to be literally and overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah. Well, like,
oh yeah,
Steam.
Gotta mention
and
that.
it's like when I was going in, and like when I was going into this, like I was kind of, or I guess what I was thinking about, or what this game was going to be more like going into it was like kind of this. It was more about the interaction, because it's a game. Like, oh well, it's like you doing the screwed up crap, right? And like what you're actually able to do is kind of limited. I mean, it all generally revolves around just kind of aggravating people or whatever, or just gunning them down. And so it's like,
yeah,
okay,
even the rampage part of it, like I haven't played some of it that way. I was like, okay, well, if I just shoot my way through all these encounters, even then, it still wasn't entertaining at all. Because again, like I said, the shooting sucks. Like the core gameplay loop sucks, and they know the doing the chores or like doing whatever to get the stuff done was a boring gameplay loop. That's why every encounter ends with a combat sequence. You ever noticed that? Like the final chore or whatever it is usually ends with you having to face either like some kind of boss or some kind of like combat encounter.
That's what That's why I say your chores are basically mission selects in disguise. Because like you go to do the chore and then immediately combat encounter. So it's like, oh, so this is like the mission of the day, I guess. Like when you go to the library, you find those people who are like save the what was it? Save the trees, burn the books, I think. And like you go to return the book and it straight up just ends with you trying to escape a burning library. And it comes across very video gamey in that sense.
I don't even disagree necessarily with some of the game's points. I don't disagree that the evangelicals at the time were being ridiculous when they were comparing video games to Satanism or whatever. I agree that the Satanist panic at the time, or I think it was like Satan fever or whatever it was, in the early 2000s, where everybody was worried about demonic things coming into like society or whatever. I agree that was ridiculous. I agree that some of the government actions taken against video games at the time could have been construed as censorship. I understand those things, and I get the time period that it came from. Like I said, I think I was the only one on this podcast that understood the references they were making. I remembered, like, oh, I know what they were talking about, or I know this character, or I recognize that ballad, or whatever it was that they were trying to do. Like, I understand the historical context behind this, and in the slimmest way possible, I could see someone playing it for historical context of like, oh, this is what like edgy video games are like in the early 2000s. And I think, like, I made a comment on Will's stream. I was like, this game is aggressively 2003. Like, I definitely get the sense of when it came from playing it. I totally see where it came from. But it's just not worth it. It's awful. They're still updating it, so it counts as a modern game. Just bad.
Which it does not feel like that at all.
No.
Bad game.
Not in the slightest. Bad.
And I'm just disappointed because, people talk this game up, and I'm like, oh, wow, this sounds pretty funny. And then
honestly, I think after experiencing this with Rome Total War, I think nostalgia is a powerful drug. I think playing something as a kid and then remembering liking that thing is very powerful, and it can convince you of a lot of things that may not be true. And I think that a lot of people played this game in high school, or they played it in middle school, they played it in like early college or whatever, and it was the new like edgy thing at the time, and so it became like a cool thing to like it, and it was very like anti-culture or whatever. And anti-culture at the time always was valued to that time period or whatever. Sorry, Michael.
I think it's like I would agree with that if it weren't for the when I look at Steam and look at most helpful in the past 30 days, and it's still at 96%, of people liked it in like the last 30 days, and they have pretty small like relatively small like play times where it's like, oh, on record 8.4 hours or 7.9, 15.9 hours on record.
Well, the game is pretty
Well,
short
you don't know when people replayed
It's
it or
only
when
like-
they first got it, or even if Steam tells you that, you don't know if they played it when they were younger and then they got it again, and you don't know if that person's a young person right now. And I could see how this could appeal to like a middle schooler right now. Like a lot of the references.
Because my theory behind
anyway.
I think it's like I just when I'm looking at here with like all the reviews, I don't really think that, you know, there's got to be something that people see that we just don't. That's just how I see. I don't want to say it's like just like, oh, it's just nostalgia. I legitimately think that there's something here that a lot of people like that I believe that we're
personally,
just
I think it's the
seeing.
raunchiness, but I think people still find that valuable, the anti-culture of it.
I guess I guess especially like in an interactive medium, you know, it's like, oh yeah, I'm a part of this.
Especially since there's a
whatever.
whole like conversation around politically correct culture right now. I could see a lot of people like doubling down on being anti-PC by playing this game and then like convincing themselves they like it. Or just, you know, genuinely liking it or whatever. I think that person would have a really bad taste, but you know, whatever. If that's what they want to play. That's what they want to play. I think a lot of that is like internet hysteria around the politically correct thing, but I think that's a separate conversation. Yeah, I mean that's really the summation of it. I think this is a terrible game. I understand the significance of it from a game history perspective. But I do not see what makes this remarkable at all. Outside of maybe like being generous, maybe it was the first game to do like semi-open world exploration. Because again, this is like before GTA, right? This is before GTA 3.
I think GTA 3 came out 2001.
Okay.
Let me double check.
GTA 23. GTA came out in 2001. So even
Yeah,
then,
October
yeah,
2001.
even then,
So,
I still can't give it that. Yeah, sorry. And then there were better games about open world stuff.
I mean,
like Red Faction was a better first person shooter. It had like breakable worlds and whatever.
I mean, I think for like for Postal 2 is I think like part of the appeal is supposed to be like it's a smaller town, so it's like denser to explore.
I guess so, but the world is so barren.
Compared to GTA.
Like there's nothing to do. There's nobody to talk to.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't understand. I don't understand the value in that.
And like it's kind of weird because like playing through it, it just gets less and less creative, I guess. Because like, I remember on Tuesday when you had that band coming in, just suddenly I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat, I guess. But after that, like nothing else of note really happens in the overworld. It just kind of becomes an excuse to walk from point A to point B while getting shot at.
Yeah. To go on your next rampage, which, as Brendan has said before, the game will definitely push you towards. They'll try their hardest to push you to that rampage.
And then punish you for it.
And then punish you for it. You know, it's just the illusion of choice. They'll say, hey, you can do anything, but we're gonna put it this way. So how about you go on that? How about you go on that rampage? You know you want to. You know you want to. Like it's saying like about the stuff of like violence in video games. When you actually try to like not do any violence, it seems so much like it's like trying to punish you for not wanting to do it.
Yeah. They make it as painful.
So
as
yeah,
possible.
all around.
Anyway.
Yeah, so all around, this is a very disappointing game to play. Well, I say disappointing, but mainly because of like the hype surrounding it.
Yeah, I was like overwhelmingly positive. It's just like the biggest thing that that gets me about
It's
this
dumbfounding,
game.
honestly.
That so many people recognize this game as a great game. A lot of people saying like a classic, which for people who say it's classic, then yes, I would agree with what Brendan's saying. It's like, you know, they played this young, nostalgia, blah blah blah. But to see it like still have it is still fucking shocking to me, and I just don't understand it. Like what Brendan says about like the reason, it's like it makes sense, sure, but it's like hard to like still accept, I guess.
Anyway, that was an experience.
So,
Yeah.
well, all right.
Yeah,
so,
what are the final scores? I already gave
Brendan,
out my
what
score.
would you
but
give?
I want to know the other. You guys' score.
I think I'm with you on the one, Brendan. Like this was just not a very enjoyable game to play in the slightest. Like maybe in the beginning when the initial shot gets to you, like if you went into this game not knowing much about it, you're like, oh, I can shove this cat up this gun, or I can shove the gun up the cat's ass. Holy shit, that's hilarious. But then you go through it, and then it just kind of becomes the norm, and you're like, okay, and then what else does this game have? Oh, it has nothing else?
Yeah.
Okay. It's just a slog to get through. And
Yeah.
with the repetitive jokes. Ugh. Fucking this one gets a 1 from me.
I am actually going to. I can't believe this, honestly, because I think out of like it's not by much, but I give this game a 2, which is the highest score of this game. Not much, as I said, not by much, but the only reason being is because I actually think that the only thing I could really see as like being okay about this game is I actually think like the shooting actually doesn't. It is kind of weak, but I also think it's like I've seen plenty of games that have like bullet sponge enemies. But like the actual like gunplay, it seems like it's like pretty accurate, almost kind of like it has nowhere near the refinements, but it kind of almost feels like playing like, especially when you have like the machine gun like Counter-Strike. It feels like to me.
I did testing with it. The bullets are off by 1/4 of an inch from the cursor, so that's great.
I've just seen like
it's hard to notice, but like
especially like nowadays,
tests,
it's kind of like
so might be why I noticed.
Yeah, it's just, and I will say even though I don't like the jokes, I will say it's like the smallest little thing of credit, I feel, but I mean I did kind of there was like a little part of me that with like especially like the achievements I did some like weird shit, as I said. I fucking pissed right in the air. And it gave me a thing called where is it? Not the cat. It's sterile and I like the taste. It's gross, but I thought it was like, I was not expecting
to think about it
to happen. So I have to at least give a little bit of credit for that, where it's like, oh, you thought about this more than not at all. With like these, and kind of made it slightly fun. Even though I still think that some of these are grossly outdated, as I said. Like, Labor Men is Our Leaders is still like the biggest one for me, and also the obsession with Gary Coleman. Yeah. But other than that, yeah, fucking terrible. And I will say, even though that we hate, I think that the thing that I wanted to do at the very end was I want to kind of call to you guys to what if you guys really enjoy Postal 2 you've made it this far, which if you really like Postal 2 and you hear us shitting on us this hard, I gotta give it credit to you. You can at least like listen to us and hear like the other side, and I commend you for that. But I kind of want to like give I want you to like leave a comment or anything that kind of says what it is about Postal 2 that you found, that deserves its like overwhelmingly positive status, or why you like it so much. I think that it would be very interesting to get your guys' like opinion on like what you found so great about this game.
Oh yeah,
because I certainly don't.
Because like, as far as I can tell, it just seems like this game gets this positive reputation by being so overly offensive.
Yeah. And it's that like anti-culture kind of thing behind it. This game is so old; it has Darth Maul jokes, The Office jokes, and jokes about Reddit. Damn.
And again, the 2000 election joke, like. This game was obviously not meant to last beyond the year it came out in.
Yeah.
Even though it's got like 5,000 updates. like over 5,000 updates as
Yeah.
of now.
It seems like not a lot of people finish
Anyway,
the game.
I don't know, like something that can be like what 8 hours
Yeah.
or 5 hours. Yeah, because it's like, because my guess this is just hypothetical. I could be very wrong because I don't know these people, but it just seems like these overwhelmingly positive reviews come from either people who've already played the game but then get it on Steam later on, or people who just kind of played the first couple hours, think it's hilarious, and then just moves on.
Yeah. But I'm going to leave that job for kind of like showing why to you guys. And I really hope that you do.
Someone says something.
I genuinely want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really genuinely want to know like your opinion on it and why you like it so much. But yeah, I think that's everything. Did you think
so.
Brendan?
Thank you for listening to the Media Cocktail Podcast episode 8. Before you go, we have to announce what the next piece of media is for the Cocktail Podcast. So to watch or listen to that before the next episode, so you don't get spoiled on it or whatever. The next episode is Mike's choice. Michael, what did you choose for us for next week?
Well, since Brendan cheated the last time, wink, wink, not judge. I'm just kidding. But I'm actually going to pick two. One of them, I do want to do a song, and I think that Brendan does have like a good point of like trying to go a little bit more into songs. So my song is going to be from Metric, Lost Kitten. And specifically, I want it to do two different ways. Like, because there is a music video that I think is a very interesting piece, especially along with the thing, but I wanted to watch it both without the thing, you know, like watching it, listening to it first, without like the music video, and then going into the music video. I think that will be kind of interesting. But for my game, I am choosing Lisa the Painful. Another overwhelmingly positive game on Steam. I have actually had this game since, I think, maybe forever. At least like 2 years, though.
I was not expecting another game the other week.
Yeah, I've had a lot of interest in Lisa. I know that Brendan has it on his wish list.
Oh, I think I've seen like Markiplier play some of this game, actually.
Don't spoil. I actually have zero idea on this game.
Don't worry, like this was like more than 5 years ago, so like I can't remember anything beyond like the main character.
The only thing that I actually know about this is it's actually kind of Earthbound-esque.
Oh no, look at the graphics. It really does seem like it.
More of a gritty slash like Mad Max Earthbound game.
Mm-hmm.
Which Earthbound for me, easy buy-in. But yeah, I specifically want to do Peace Lisa the Painful because there is a DLC to this game that I don't want to say is necessary for playing this, which is it's technically a DLC, but it's more of like a sequel called Lisa the Joyful. And I don't want to exactly go into it just yet. I just want to say, all right, just Lisa the Painful as of right now, or just Lisa the base game.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, play through on Lisa
Cool.
the Painful and listen to and watch the music video for separately. Metric Lost Kitten. By next episode, should be in about like 2 weeks. Hey, go. Here's your homework.
Woo.
So can't complain about spoilers then.
Go follow us on Twitch. Again, Lost Gamer, some Lost Gamer, sorry.
Some lost gamer.
Drinks and Fun, and the Lost Gamer. Or sorry, no, Headless Samurai. A Headless Samurai.
Some
The
Lost
Headless
Gamer.
Samurai. One of those.
Yeah.
All right, bye guys.
Something.
Bye.
Bye.